Hello, friends. Good afternoon. The topic that is I have chosen to discuss with you is about the China's political system, and I will focus on particularly after 1945. Okay, so my after the World War, what is the history of China? How China moved forward? What kind of political system they adopted? And who was the key figure, just like Mao Zedong and many others. The short history I want to tell you about China. When the Japan was invaded into the Manchurian regions of China and the eastern part of China because of he was the power in Asia. And after the 1945 when bomb was dropped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima, 1945, August 1945. And then after the bomb when was dropped, the Japan surrendered to the US after 5 days. The Chinese uh, flank of the Japanese army surrendered to the leaders of China. And after that, the Chinese civil war kind of situation began, and the Communist Party of China wanted to uh, become the national power to establish the communism into the system. And the China before this Communist Party, the party which was ruling some sort of region of China was supported by the United States some kind of democratic system to adopt. And when the Communist Party overtook and flushed out the Democratic Party, who I don't know the name of that person right now, I don't remember, but this democratic system was flushed out, and he went to the region of Taiwan, expelled out the mainland of China, and went to the Taiwan. And that's why that Taiwan is a democratic system and this is a communist system. Okay, so come to the point that 1945, 46, 40, 50, and afterwards in 50s, uh, China in 49, I think, invaded into the expansion force to Taiwan, to Tibet, and they forcefully expelled out in 1959. On, I think the Dalai Lama expelled out from the Tibet and his thousands of his followers. They opposed the invasion of Chinese army into the uh, Tibet, and the Chinese army forcefully occupied the region of Tibet, and Mr. Dalai Lama was the guru called the Buddhist leader, scholar, was expelled out from Tibet in 1959 onwards. And this expansion came to the Indian border. And 1960-61 Chinese incursion here and there was going on. And 62, the China invaded into India because the Dalai Lama took the asylum in India, and Chinese leadership, I think, said to the Indian government that please give me back Dalai Lama. Indian government refused. That I think they annoyed the Chinese leadership. So to that, keeping in mind, the Chinese leadership took the step to punish India for this cause. That is one thing, but the expansion of that, uh, because Tibet was took over by the Chinese authorities. It was the accession, so they invaded and they took the control, and they after that the Indian border into unclassified border came into direct conflict with the Chinese army. So the Chinese, whatever their expansion mechanism was to grab the land, they came to the Indian border and they invaded into India, and the war happened, some sort of war. The war has its own history. India wanted to help from the US, and Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru wrote many letters to the uh, President of United States, even UK, many more. They wanted to jet fighter, anything for the fight. But the help, before this help come to India, the Chinese uh, get back to their own territory, and after that the uh, stable situation where, and some sort of little bit, if some sort of little bit war kind of situation was created in the past 3 and 4 times, but that doesn't get up to the level of war. But 2022 June, I think the 2020 June was when the Indian and Chinese soldiers clashed on the border. Set aside all the stories of India and China and how China expanded. And I was talking about the history of China. Okay. So the Communist Party took control over by flashing the democratic system of the China. Okay. So the Mao Zedong came to the power, and then the history of China bent into change, some sort of change, or fully structural change happened in 1960s onwards. Yes. So the Chinese Communist Party, under the leadership of Mao Zedong, opposed this uh, coexistence, the policy of peaceful coexistence. The Mao Zedong opposed, and due to this, the Chinese relationship with the Soviet Union of went also in hot water, and India's relationship also. deteriorated largely. So China had signed with India a Panchsheel agreement for peaceful coexistence as a good neighbor, but they violated it. Yes, they did it. The Sino-Soviet split led to the split of many communist parties of the world. That is another thing. The Chinese started incursion in Indian territory in late 1950s. The Chinese policy in Tibet had also changed in 1959. The Dalai Lama and the thousands of his followers had fled to India, where they had lived ever since as refugees. Okay. 1962 war broke out and China invaded to India. So this reason, according to China's leadership under the Mao Zedong thought the his thought was extolled for its invincibility. He was supposing that the China and under the master Zedong is invincible. He cannot be defeated. Okay, so his thought was the period of 1966 and 69 was a cultural revolution. Okay, cultural revolution. There was a political turmoil in China on that days during 66 and 69. In the same, in the name of continuing the revolution, thousands of people were disgraced and removed from their jobs by mobs of students and red guards. Okay, uh, the Communist Party guards was called as the red guards. Centers for higher education were closed, and several restrictions were imposed on literary and cultural activities. China's economic life was seriously disrupted. In the early 1970s, in the early 1970s, 1971, 72, 73. Okay, this kind of China was admitted to the United Nations. Okay, her relations with the United States also improved. By then, China had become a nuclear state. In 1975 onwards, China became 74, 75. China became the nuclear power. Mao Zedong death in 1976. Mao Zedong, this is a very key player in Communist Party leadership, was followed by a fierce power struggle in China. Just like Mr. Xi Jinping uh, expelled out from the meeting of the previous president from the meeting in very next meeting. I don't remember the name of the former president who was expelled out from the meeting by Xi Jinping. In a very year of this year, 2023 meeting, when the Communist Party was meeting in Shanghai. So when the power transfer, when the leadership changes, there was a kind of political struggle to get the power. In 1980s, Deng Xiaoping, XIC Apping type name is, had became the most important leader in China. 1980. From the late 1970s, 1980 onwards, vast changes began to take place in China in every sphere. They took uh, just watch the activities. They first expanded their territorial expansion. Every part they acquired, first under the Mao Zedong. Second thing, they wanted to change the cultural revolution. They took control over the everything, the academic institutions. They have to change. You know, this is very important. That's why I like Mr. Mao Zedong. Whatever people say that he is right or he is wrong, he adopted the communist system, socialist system, whatever the system he adopted. I would say that he is a leader, and leader has a vision. Without vision, he or she cannot be a leader. He had the vision. He followed, he applied that vision. Because after he had felt that, what was the cause? What was the reason why China came into the became the subservient of the colonial powers of these masters? Many suppression oppressions have Chinese peoples have suffered in the colonial period. What was the cause? Why I think Mr. Zedong was thinking that what was the cause? The backwardness of the cause. Why I am backward? What kind of reforms we need? We need educational reform, economic reform, technological upgradation, everything he wanted. And a democratic system takes too much time to reform. He wanted the quick reform and come to the uh, make the line length right away. I think that's the immediate step he took under control, and he it may be on that time uh, created some kind of havoc in the society. It may be suppression has happened to the masses because without that change cannot take place. You have to, if you want to change the structural change, make something change. You need to have a reform kind of some sort of. It may be take the some hard step which could not even good for on that time, but in future, if that is uh, calculated, then people will say that was visionary person. Okay, so I would say the Mao Zedong was a very visionary person. He changed the course of China's society, structural economy, everything. So that's a very good thing. That is I wanted to share with you, and I have also other steps I will share with you about China's history. Something interesting, yes.